Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America. Today we're talking about Black women and politics inside and outside the political process with Kimberly Peeler-Allen, one of the co-founders of Higher Heights. The organization's goal is to get more Black women into elected office. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I know you have more than that as a goal. You have many, many, many goals.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about as many of them as we can fit into a half an hour today. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much.
When I saw you at the Democratic convention in Philadelphia, I said, you've got to come on the show. I want to talk about what was going on. Because we then were at a luncheon that was for Black women in elected office. So talk a little bit about, first, about where you're from. I always ask, where do you place yourself in Black America?
I grew up right outside of Washington, actually on the other side of the Beltway in Montgomery County, and politics was just part of the daily discourse in my house. My parents were not, politically active per se, but it was definitely impressed on me and my brother that what happens in government has a direct impact on your life, and you need to be aware of what's happening and who these people are that are making these decisions.
Yeah, what did your folks do? Where?
My father worked for the Defense Department, and my mother managed the two of us.
A full-time job.
Yes,
sure.
Absolutely.
And were they optimistic about what could happen in government and how you could get things done?
I think at varying times, depending on what the issues of the day were. I think it was definitely a sense of you have to do something. If you don't do something, you're part of the problem. So I remember very early on, my mother having me write letters to Annapolis, to our state capital, talking about I think it was. Maybe food stamps or something that we needed to, the state needed to pass this bill because it was going to feed hungry children. It's like, well, I'm a child. I don't want to be hungry. She's like, well, you're not on food stamps. But yes, that's exactly the point.
And how old were you then?
I think I was maybe 9 or 10.
Excellent, excellent. Writing letters that early. So we can see how the path brings you to this point. Mm-hmm. But you said you went to Seton Hall.
Yep.
And talk to us a little bit about what you majored in.
I majored in business management with a minor in political science, and I just said, well, my day job is going to be business, but I'm just interested in politics, so that's going to be my hobby. So I'm just going to take minor for fun. And my mother said, no, you're going to work in politics. And my first job out of college was at a lobbying firm in Washington, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow, wow. And I was amazed to read that you had your own consulting company, the only African-American registered company in the state of New York.
Doing fundraising. Full-time political fundraising. I had my firm for about 12 years. We worked on just about every major race in New York State and several federal races. And I just was really focused on women and candidates of color and really trying to provide the resources necessary to get these people and these different voices to the decision-making table.
Yeah, and the resources, that money is really often the thing that stands right in the way of anybody getting elected, especially people of color and especially Black women. Mm-hmm. So how did you love raising money, and how did you find it? And you could separate people from their funds too?
Yeah, it's definitely something that is just so critically important, and it's running an effective campaign, and campaigns in this country, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry now. And just being able to talk to candidates about what their passions are, what their interests are, any commonalities that they may have with other people, and then going out and finding those folks and putting them in a room and hoping that there's a love connection. And that their support, whether it is because they like the person, they like the candidate, or they like the issues, or they're supportive of the issues, or they don't like the person that they're running against, they're all motivating factors for donors.
How robust do you think the Black giving to political campaigns is at this point?
It's growing. It's grown tremendously. I think President Obama's campaign, and I think really going back even further to Harold Ford in, I think it was in 1998 when he first started thinking about running for U.S. Senate, because he would have been the first black south of the Mason-Dixon in the Senate. They really started to get people engaged and started to loosen up those pocketbooks. But I think really with the advent of President Obama and Senator Booker, they've really galvanized a lot of folks around giving, not just to them, but to other candidates as well.
Down ticket too, where it's so essential and where lesser money will help.
It's growing. I think folks are really still very focused on the federal level. They think they understand what happens at the federal level much more than the local ins and outs of politics. And I think to a certain degree, folks who are new to the donor world are still seeing like, oh, what's happening at the local level? It's really just decided by the bosses. It's not really votes, but really that's not how it is.
Okay, so now we were at this luncheon at the DNC, and very exciting, provocative. Nina Turner really preached at that luncheon about the failures across the board of so many people when it came to black women running for office. But they singled you out and said, thank you, Kimberly, for what you're doing. So let's talk a little bit about Higher Heights and how you're getting black women elected.
So Higher Heights is a national organization focused on mobilizing and electing black women. And we see the process as not just recruiting candidates, but you have to make sure that the electorate is energized and engaged and ready to then go out and vote for those candidates. And we know that there are few opportunities for black women to run because of party structure, because of circumstances, the demographics of districts and stuff. We're not going to have a black woman in every seat, but we can work towards making sure that we reach parity, which would be 7 black women in the U.S. Senate. Right now, we have none.
But the possibility.
But the possibility of Kamala Harris in California, our endorsed candidate, the 2-term Attorney General, who is running an outstanding campaign and really looks like she will be the first woman since Carol Moseley Braun in 1998
who was the first and only black woman senator.
Exactly.
So that would be the second.
Exactly.
So you endorse, you try to raise funds. You bring people together.
Exactly. And we also do research. We actually have a group of organizations. We have Higher Heights Leadership Fund, which we do all of our research through. We have Higher Heights for America, which does our endorsements. And then we have Higher Heights for America PAC, which then supports our candidates.
Right, a full plate of options. And you do a lot of things with Rutgers, I see, too. It's fantastic, and I encourage everyone to go to your website to download the 2 reports that you have there on black women, one generally giving statistics and the other one about leadership. And we'll put the website up
Wonderful.
So people can access that. But there are 22 million black women in this country.
Yes.
And I want to put up from one of the reports the graphic that shows how many elected officials there were. Here, if we take a look at this, which is just incredible, over the course of time, 11,812 men, 294 women have been elected to Congress. This is from the beginning of time, so to speak. And there are how many black women?
31.
31. So
this was as of 2015, and we are, fingers crossed, going to pick up another, actually 2 more women in the House. So
it boggles the mind, to think, that the numbers are so disproportionate. So you're looking for equality or representation, and how many would that be?
It would be 7 women in the U.S. Senate. 7
in the Senate, and the picture we have up now is of the of Congress. Do you know?
Right. Not off the top of my head. I would guess it would probably be about 32.
Okay, so that's not so bad in terms of those statistics, but we've got 32 more, I'm sure.
Well, it would be 32. Right now, there are 18 Black women sitting in the 114th Congress.
Right.
So we would have to double their numbers to reach parity.
Okay, get busy.
We're trying.
So talking about, we can't have a conversation about Black women in politics without talking about Shirley Chisholm, who I had the great pleasure of knowing and interviewing very early on in her career. And let's take a look at a clip, because she had the bravery, I will say, to run for president of the United States. Let's take a look.
I stand before you today as a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency of the United States of America. I am not the candidate of Black America, although I am Black and proud. I am not the candidate of the women's movement of this country, although I am a woman, and I'm equally proud of that. I am not the candidate of any political bosses or fat cats or special interests. I stand here now without endorsements from many big-name politicians or celebrities or any other kind of prop.
I just love this woman. And if you ever, I know you've seen the film by Shola Lynch about Shirley Chisholm, it will make you cry, because she fought against everyone, but knew internally that she had the right as much as anybody else. She was capable, accomplished, situated in Congress, et cetera, like others, to run for the president of the United States.
Absolutely.
And you missed it all, because I said, "How old were you?" This is 1972. Forget about it.
I wasn't quite here yet. I was on my way, but I wasn't quite here yet.
Definitely taking up the mantle. Yeah. So talk then about what Shirley Chisholm had. Do you see that in other candidates as well?
Absolutely. I mean, Shirley, the quote, the best description of Shirley is unbought and unbossed. And I see that in many candidates and many women who aren't candidates, but who are leading in their own right. There are so many women out there who are saying, you know what, I am going to buck the system, and they're telling me that I can't, or that it's not my turn, or I need to go do something else. But I know that my voice is powerful. I know that if I am able to leverage my voice and raise my voice, it will have a better impact for my community, my family, and the nation. And there are countless women across the country who are stepping off the sidelines in varying degrees, whether they are running for city council, or I had a conversation with a state senator, or actually she's about to become a state senator in Colorado, and she's already mapping out her plan of how she's going to get either to become the mayor of her city or go to Congress. And just because she knows that she has intrinsic value that is not being heard at the moment.
So there are some who, especially with all of the chaos that's been on our streets in many cities, the creation of Black Lives Matter by 3 powerful women, there are some who suggest that maybe the opportunity and the power rests outside of the old-fashioned political structure, and that for women of color, Black women especially, this is a realm that they can have more power. How do you feel about the changes that they are able to bring about?
I think both pieces are critically important. I think you have to work outside the system as well as inside the system to move things forward. I think there is so much that can be done outside the system, as we have seen through the Black Lives Matter movement, and just the level of discourse that has happened across the country in all levels of media because of them and their work, and unfortunately these continuing tragedies that we keep seeing across the country. But we also need to then have people inside the political apparatus who can then pass legislation to support the work that's being done outside. So the two have to work, they have to go in tandem for us to be able to make any progress.
So I want to talk about the Black women's voting power, because this is an extraordinary, the story of 2008, 12, and this year as well. Black women who came out like 70% higher than any other voting group.
Yep.
Tell us why you think that is. I know that Barack Obama had a lot to do with that in 2008, but still exists today as well, I think, in this election, will be the defining vote.
Absolutely, absolutely. And actually, the Black women's electoral power has continually increased since 1996. It's not just an advent of the Obama candidacy. So that really shows that it wasn't just because of an amazing Black man candidate and his family that Black women came out to the polls. We generally are very well versed on who our candidates are, what their issues are, and we are going to come out because we understand the importance, we understand the struggle that was made to allow us to have that right to vote, and we take it very seriously. And we know that when you fire up a Black woman, she doesn't go to the polls alone. She brings her family, she brings her neighbors, she brings her church, her water cooler, her sorority, because the stakes are too high for our families and our communities to stay home.
What do you say to the people who would raise the point that Black women, even though they have used this clout to elect candidates, presidents, senators, et cetera, whatever, they have not benefited from their work? They have not benefited from their vote, from that, bringing their church, their water cooler, all of their people. So what?
Well, I think there has been a slight disconnect. I think many people see voting as the beginning and the end, where voting is step one. And I think in general, we as Americans do not hold our elected leaders accountable in any meaningful way, whether it is supporting them when they are doing something that you like, or telling them when you don't, and then using the power of the vote to take them out or find another candidate to run against them. I think that is something that has just been missing. People say, oh, well, I vote every 4 years. Well, every 4 years isn't going to get the job done. And I think it's just really a matter of getting people really engaged with their elected leaders from the local level all the way up to the federal level to, make some demands. Because I had this conversation with someone who was a big supporter of the president in 12, and she said, when the time came, I didn't know what to ask for. I didn't even know what the possibilities were. I didn't know, I wasn't thinking about organizing folks to do a mandate about the next Supreme Court justice. I wasn't thinking about legislation. I just didn't know. I just knew I wanted him elected. So it's thinking beyond just election day to the aspect of governing and figuring out what we want, what each of us wants from our elected leaders.
But some would say that that's the job of the elected leader, to turn around and say, well, let me see what I can do for you. Do you think that this administration, because there are some who say there's a disconnect between having a Black president and what actually wound up in the Black communities, what would you say Black women need to say to President Obama now? And to Hillary Clinton, who will be the beneficiary this next time around. So I agree with keeping the pressure on them, but I want to know why don't they just think of it on their own? How can I help you? And
I think you have to switch the power structure, because at the end of the day, we put them in power. They work for us.
Right.
And when you hire employees, you give them your, what you're going to be graded on. What are your expectations? What are your goals, your quarterly goals? And if you don't meet those goals, then you're held accountable. And I think we as the electorate need to switch that.
So what should the Black women, did they get enough out of this administration? There was the My Brother's Keeper program, and then, Black women were raising their hands and saying, wait just a minute, didn't we put you in office? Well, what about the girls and women? And I know that there have been several efforts, the United State of Women, which was a huge several-day conference, a summit where they brought 5,000 women to Washington, and there's the office, but
No, I think there's always more that can be done. I think, like I said, there wasn't necessarily an expectation of, there was kind of this assumption that he was going to be good for everybody, but without giving, everybody is a lot of people. And without saying very specifically, I want this, I want that, unfortunately we got left out in the cold to a certain degree.
Well, and so I have every expectation too that you're going to fix that. But this election that's coming up, Hillary Clinton had the Mothers of the Movement on stage, and powerful support for her. Do you think that even with Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump in a recent speech, as he was, begging for black votes, so vote for me because the Democratic Party is taking advantage of you. All they want is your vote, and then they're going to forget all about you. What about Hillary Clinton? How do you feel about? Well, I'm putting you on the spot, of all of these things, but
since I'm here,
feeling you can handle it.
I think overall, I think the Obama presidency has made the electorate probably a little more skeptical and a little more jaded about the process and what we will ultimately get as a community. And I think the Clinton campaign recognizes that to a certain degree, and I think that they have been making efforts to try and scope out, what are the issues that Black women want to hear about, what can we do to message to them to let them know that they are part of our organization. There are, varying thoughts as to how effective that work has been done, but I know from a few people that are close to the campaign, it is something that they are thinking about. And
I think they just added new members to their African American outreach. But at the convention, it was, the big story there was that Black women saved the Democratic Convention. We have some photographs, and I want you to tell me what you think of each of these people. First, Donna Brazile, who was called in. She was as interim chair. She was vice chair, and as she pointed out, this is the second time she's been interim, so she would like to have the job permanently. So talk to us about Donna in that moment where Deborah Wasserman Schultz had to step aside.
I think Donna had, she is doing what we know Donna does, which is pull things together. She runs a very tight ship.
She cleaned house, I think, right?
Exactly.
And people are gone.
And she just, she came in to clean up, tighten things up, make sure that that the Democrats had a great convention, that moving forward, the DNC was moving in a direction and with a cohesive message, and everyone was in line and things weren't in the email.
Stay away from those emails.
Exactly. But I think she has done and will continue to do an outstanding job.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that Stephanie Rollins Blake is actually the secretary of that.
The DNC.
And did the open roll call and was very visible there. And it was during the time that she was there that the charges on the last policeman in Baltimore. She's also the mayor of Baltimore. They decided that there wouldn't be charges, but then this phenomenal Justice Department report that said that in Baltimore, the discrimination, the sexism was just extraordinary. So they'll have to go into some sort of agreement. So she's not going to run again, though.
Right.
So what happens to that political path?
Well, she is actually likely to be succeeded by another Black woman.
In Baltimore.
In Baltimore.
Right.
So Baltimore will have their third Black woman mayor. So that will be
pretty good for a troubled city, right?
Exactly.
Give it to a Black woman to fix, right? A lot going on there. Leah Daughtry and Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, who were also, took over the running of this convention, for Hillary.
Yeah, Leah has. Reverend Daughtry is just amazing. She's the only person to serve as the CEO of the DNC twice. And as she said in her opening reception on Sunday night, she said, we are on time and under budget. which is something that really, for the multi-million-dollar operation to put on the Democratic National Convention, is really commendable.
Right. So you'll have to come back because we're running out of time. I want to ask you two things. One, what's the most crucial thing that anybody out there watching can do to help Black women in elective office? And then I'm going to ask you to finish the statement, the power, the strength of Black America lies in. So what can viewers do?
Find a Black woman who's running for office, vote for her, and write her a check.
I love it. I love the way you simplify it. That's great. Just 3 steps, and that's it. And the strength, the power of Black America for you lies in?
Lies in our untapped potential.
And you think that it's there. And you're working to get women and girls to identify themselves and put their hands up and say, I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. We have the economic power, we have the voting power, but we don't realize the power that we have. Nielsen put out a report, I believe it was last summer, where they asked white women, white men, whether they saw Black women as trendsetters, and I think it was 78% of them said yes. They definitely saw Black women as trendsetters. Well, when they asked Black women if they saw themselves as trendsetters, only about 25% of those women saw themselves as trendsetters. So clearly we have the power. It is right there in our hands, but we need to actually grasp it and use it.
Well, we thank you so much, Kimberly, for being with us today. The work you're doing at Higher Heights is absolutely essential. I suggest everybody go to the website, download the reports, send them some money. You can donate right on the website. Then that money will go to their work so that we can make sure, first of all, that Black women feel and Black girls feel that they can do it. And then we write the check and make sure that they get to do it. Thank you so much for being with you.
Thank you.
Being with us today. And thank you all so much for being with us too. That's our program for today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and we will see you the next time.